Is the Bible truly accurate? Today we are at session 8 and we're going to talk about David's kingdom. David was central to the message of the Bible. He's mentioned over 1,000 times. There's a whole book about his great-grandmother, the book of Ruth. His story is told in the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel. Then the story of his reign is repeated in 1st Chronicles. He wrote many of the Psalms. And in the New Testament, he's mentioned over 50 times. He's called repeatedly the Son of David. He's prophesied to sit on the throne of David. And on the day of Pentecost, the birth of the church, Peter mentions David 3 times in the first sermon. And we also read in Acts that the tabernacle of David is to be restored. So David is central to the message of the Bible. But David and his kingdom have been doubted. People say he never existed. And Philip Davies said, "I am not the only scholar who suspects that the figure of King David is about as historical as King Arthur." And someone else said, "He's as historical as Robin Hood." So, did David exist? It's only in the last few years, maybe the last few decades, that discoveries have been made showing that David and his kingdom truly existed. The Tel Dan column was discovered in the north of Israel, in Dan, in 1993. And on that column was written the words, "House of David." Some people doubted that it really spoke about the kingdom of David. But the following year, in 1994, they discovered on the Moabite stone, or the Mesha stele, as it's called, which was discovered in AD 68 and was a product of the 8th century before Christ. They also discovered the same words. The house of David was inscribed. So David did exist, and he had a kingdom and kings who followed him. There were also, in the 1990s and the early 2000s, discoveries made in the Valley of Elah, where David fought Goliath. In 1 Samuel 17, verses 1 to 3, two towns are mentioned, Soko and Tel Azekah, and they've been discovered and uncovered. In that valley, there's also been discovered a fortress from the time of David in 2007, which is called Kirbet Kaifa. And they discovered pots with inscriptions from the time of David in the language spoken at the time, written at the time. There was much pottery dated to the time of David. And then in 2005, only about 15 years ago, the palace of King David was discovered in Zion, in Jerusalem. It's mentioned in 2 Samuel 2 and verse 5. A woman named Dr. Mazar began to excavate the city of David, and she uncovered a large stone structure that she believed was the northern wall of David's palace. And in that palace, they have found many discoveries from that time, including the next 200 years. And they found seals on stones. And very interestingly, they found 2 seals with the names of officials of King Zedekiah that are mentioned in Jeremiah 38, verse 1. There was Jehukal, son of Shelemiah, and Gedaliah, son of Pashur. And so evidence has continued to show King David did exist. His kingdom and all the kings that followed him did exist. His descendants ruled Israel. Archaeology verifies these facts, and the Bible is true.